Guardians, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Today, we're going to be talking about the best weapon in the game, hands down. We are talking about, what the hell is this thing called? The Ruinous Effigy. Once again, I made a video about this weapon about a year ago. I had a ton of fun using it back then. And believe it or not, the crazy people at Bungie made it even better this season. Now, I know we only have 64 goddamn days left of this season, but this will give you at least 3 or 4 days of fun and shenanigans while you're checking out this build. I promise you, this thing absolutely shreds. It is the most fun in Destiny 2, in my opinion. Just being able to dunk on so many enemies, and if we didn't need more balls to throw at enemies, this fits that category as well. So check this video out. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you did and you wanted to try something similar to this little meme slash, you know, a little more fun build, then let me know by subscribing or leaving a comment down below, and I'll reply to as many as I possibly can. Thank you guys so much. Let's jump into the Ruinous Effigy build. We're going to break this video down one by one, exactly what we're using, why it works, and in this case, I actually have some other options in case you don't have the armor exotics. You can try other stuff as well. Like I said, I made a video about this weapon about a year ago, and it did pretty well on my channel for not really making any kind of Destiny 2 content, and because it's my favorite weapon in the game. Since then, I've completed the catalyst on it, so it does even more damage, plus a lot of the artifact mods this season, plus the weapon surge mods we got for boots, make this weapon an absolute blast to use. So let's jump into exactly what we're using, why it's so good, what they changed into the patch, and we'll talk about all that stuff right now. So we, of course, are using the Ruinous Effigy. This weapon, if you don't have it, you can get it at the counter, the store, whatever the hell you want to call it, that place in the middle near the vault. So go pick one up and thank me later. A Ruinous Effigy video wouldn't be great if I didn't talk about the amazing weapon that the Ruinous Effigy is. The reason I love this weapon so much is because it's one of the rare weapons in the game that actually changes your playstyle simply because of the weapon. You could have a 5 out of 5 perfectly crafted assault rifle. I could have a blue one from the EDZ, and guess what? We're playing the game the same way. Yes, you might do more damage, but we're basically doing the same thing. The Ruinous Effigy turns all of that on its head. Its special perk is called Transmutation Spheres. What that is when you kill an enemy, I believe it has an internal cooldown around 5 seconds, but when you kill an enemy, it drops a purple ball. That ball can absolutely nuke enemies. Now we are playing a different kind of style of game. I'm no longer just sitting there and shooting behind cover trying to get a kill. I'm in the fray, dipping, dodging, ducking, and diving my way to victory. All the meanwhile, I am jamming my balls down onto the enemy and absolutely obliterating them from the map. There are a few more things you can do with the Ruinous Effigy once you pick up your balls as well. You can use the light attack, you can hold guard and a big dome comes up around you and that drains nearby targets. But even better with Light 3.0, the damage and the dome now from the Ruinous Effigy also suppresses targets. So now you turn into a crowd control CC goblin ball dunking machine that absolutely decimates enemies with damage up to, if not better, than most rocket launchers in the game. That is why I love the Ruinous Effigy. It makes you play the game different. You are no longer just shooting, you are playing the game how you want to play it, and for me, the most fun is dunking my balls on top of the enemy. Let's take a look at the Void subclass. Ready? You ready? Watch this shit. Watch this. Ready? Watch this. Watch. I pushed the wrong button.
I came back just that was fantastic.
I will die on this hill. Voidwalker Warlock still feels the absolute best out of all the subclasses. Once Starfire Protocol gets nerfed, Voidwalker is where it's at. Now, I just want to go over exactly what we're using really quickly. Not much has changed, and since we're playing an AoE crowd control crowd clearing build, we're going to be taking all of those perks. I do want to speak about 1 or 2 fragments that you could swap out and why we're choosing these aspects, but this part's going to be super quick. We are using Vortex Grenade. The reason for this is we are using Devour. The idea here is to get your lingering effect. Throw your grenade into a group of enemies. The lingering effect will allow you to constantly heal with Devour. We are also bringing Chaos Accelerant, which makes the lingering effect and size of our Vortex Grenade even bigger. We want this to be killing as many enemies periodically as possible because we're going to be in the fray, dunking our balls on top of enemies' heads the entire time. We're not going to be sitting back, shooting for the most part, get a kill, grab a ball, dunk into a group of enemies, throw a grenade, etc., etc. All of this goes back to our exotic armor pick, but we'll get there in just a minute. Down here, just real quick, down here, real quick, Echo of Expulsion, then we have Echo of Undermining, and then Echo of Remnants. All of these 3 perks go into our grenade kills. This makes our void grenades even longer. They also weaken the target in case we're doing bosses. Even though the catalyst does something very, very similar, you're not always going to run up face first and dunk your balls on top of a boss's head. Then lastly, we have Void abilities. Final blows cause targets to explode. It's impossible to tell if the ball dunk counts as this because there's some wacky spaghetti code within the game. Look at necromancers. What are the necrotic grips? Look at those and see how they work with everything that they shouldn't. So I don't know if this works with that. Maybe it does, but even if it doesn't, you really don't need this perk because everything dies to the explosion except for major enemies and above that I've seen in the game. So unless you're on the hardest zone, which is Neomuna, but everybody's done with that anyway. Something I do want to mention is you could, if you want to mess around with, I couldn't get it to work, but Echo of Domineering would fit this build perfectly. After suppressing a target, you gain greatly increased mobility and your weapon is reloaded from reserves. Defeating suppressed targets creates a void breach. We now know that because of the update, the suppression from the ball that you dunk on does suppress enemies. That sentence made no sense, but you get the idea. This does not seem to proc Echo of Domineering. At least I couldn't get it to. Every single time I would dunk on a group of enemies, they would just die and I would not gain any mobility and my weapon would not be reloaded. Maybe I messed up and there's something I did wrong, but I could not get the suppression from the balls to count for this. Lastly, since everything's going to be dying really quickly anyway, you could probably take out Echo of Expulsion and just grab any other one that you may want, because everything dies super fast with this build. I just recorded this part of the video, and when I brought it into my editing software, I realized it was about 8 to 9 minutes long. I don't want it to be that long. The build crafting in this game has been kind of neutered, and everything else is self-explanatory. So I'm just going to point out some key points, and then I will leave a link to the dim link that you can do. I will pin it to the top comment, so you guys can check out exactly what I'm running. So I'm just going to hit on the keynotes here on exactly what we have. Number 1, use whatever kinetic weapon you want. Mine has Demolitionist because we're constantly feeding into our void grenades. Of course, we're using Ruinous Effigy here, and I'm really liking corrective measures this season. The double void weapon is going to be important once we get into our artifact and boots. The number 1 exotic armor I recommend for this build is going to be Nezarec Sin. Nezarec Sin absolutely shreds with this. If you do not know what it does the following. Void damage, kills, increase ability, energy, recharge rate. Let me tell you, during the boss fights for the new seasonal activity, you know how they're breaking down in 3? I have an alt. Every single one of those 3 sections. 25, 30-second cooldowns on your void bombs is wild. Highly recommend. The important perks here are going to be Void Siphon because we need Orbs of Power, and a special ammo finder because we're going to be chewing through ammo with our Trace Rifle. Here we have just a bunch of Grenade Kickstart because we need to feed into our grenade once again. Down here, this is kind of memey. If you're dying a lot, you feel free to swap out those Void Reserves, but because we're using an LMG and a Trace Rifle, we run out of ammo a lot. This definitely does help. Combined with the siphon from the ammo finder from this, allows us to keep our ammo going. Now, this is an important perk, so I'm going to talk about this one a little bit longer. Void Weapon Surge is a new perk. When you collect an Orb of Power, you gain bonus damage. Forgive me, I used to know them, but it's been a couple of weeks for the actual percentage boost. I believe with 2, because they do stack, it goes to 10, maybe 15% bonus damage. Again, we have a Void Scavenger on here to be able to get more ammo from the bricks we're going to pick up because of our weapon choices. Down here, we have distribution and 2 bombers. Feel free to run whatever you like, but bomber really helps us with the whole grenade generation ultimate kind of stuff. That is the key points of this. Let's talk about Void Weapon Surge and the artifact mod. Now, Void Weapon Channeling is a new artifact mod that we have with this season. What it does is very similar to Void Surge. It gives you bonus damage based on how many abilities you have that are not on cooldown. However, as far as I know, these 2 things do not stack. I also think that they give you around the same amount of bonus damage, but that's fine for this build because you constantly have one or the other. You're double dipping into the same kind of buff damage perks, allowing you to constantly have a 10 to 20% extra bonus weapon damage on basically all of your stuff because we're using a Void Secondary and Void Heavy. Combining these 2 allows you to have permanent uptime and just have an increased 10%, 20% damage at all times. Fantastic with this build, highly recommend. Bricks from Beyond. This just gives you so many ammo bricks. Your teammates are going to be jumping with glee. Between a Void Heavy machine gun just chewing through enemies this season, there will be bricks everywhere, I promise. Now, lastly, the one other thing we're going to talk about is Volatile Flow. Picking up an Orbs of Power, and we're generating them with our grenades and our helmet mod, I forgot what it's called. Picking up an Orb of Power grants you your Void Weapons Volatile rounds. Let me tell you, a Trace Rifle that drops giant balls that you can dunk on enemies that also has Volatile rounds is a lot of fucking fun. You're American. Watch this, Blue. Watch this shit. Watch this shit.
I'm watching. Nice.
And I didn't die. Meta. Try it out. You'll see what I mean. Lastly, over here, we have authorized mods, just Void to just free up some slots in our weapon armor if we want to experiment some more. So these are the 4 that you need. Definitely check out this build. It's a lot of fun. Lastly, I said earlier in the video that I'm going to give you some recommendations that you can change if you do not have Nezarec Sin. Number 1 is going to be Controverse Hold. If you don't know what this does, this increases your damage resistance while charging your grenades, and when you throw them, you gain energy on hit. So hit as many enemies as you possibly can. You will have your grenade back in literal seconds. The last one I'm going to recommend as a kind of what if scenario, if you don't happen to have those other 2, is going to be Mantle of Battle Harmony. I know this is a long description, but really all this does is when you have an ultimate fully charged, you gain bonus damage. Now, I recommended this in the first video we talked about 5 minutes ago that I put out a year ago, but you do not need this, in my opinion, this season. Between Weapon Surge and Weapon Channeling from your artifact, you have bonus damage anyway, and I'm not 100% sure if this stacks. So this is a 3rd pick. It might stack, but usually in Destiny, they take the highest percentage, so maybe not. This is okay, but I would really recommend the other 2. Lastly, I want to talk about Strand. Strand is just a fun build. Ruinous Effigy Ball plus Grapple means you are literally clear cording the entire enemy wave and dunking the backline. It is so much fun to do to be able to grapple over an entire spawn of enemies and just dunk in from the back, killing all the snipers, all the heavies. It is so much fun to do, and because of that, we're going to be running 2 Woven Mail perks here to be more tanky because we lose out on Devour. So this is for Tangles and for Orbs of Power, so we gain Woven Mail for more, not resilience, but tankiness. And then dealing damage generates grenades energy, again, to cycle our grapple this time. And activating your grenade ability reloads your equipped weapon. That is for our Trace Rifle, because the reloads on those can be a little long, along with our heavy LMG. And bam, that is the full video. We talked about the weapon. We talked about why you want to use it, how much fun it is to use, the 3 exotics you can use with it, everything Strand, Void, Subclass, we got it all covered. There will be a link to my dim down below in the pinned comment, so feel free to look at that. If you guys like this video, please subscribe. I'm covering D2 and D4 up until release. I cannot wait for those games to come out, and I really working hard on my videos, if you can't tell. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Sorry for the different audio levels within the video because I was messing around with my microphone, and I think I got it to a good point right now. But thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, Guardians, and I will see you on the next one. Tic Tac out.